As we continue in our sermon series about the messiness of following Jesus, we're using kind of as our guide Mike Yaconelli's book, Messy Spirituality, Spirituality for the Rest of Us, right? Some of you are old enough to remember the old Pink Panther movies, right? With Inspector Clouseau, right? The whole idea behind the movie, and there was a series of movies, was there is this valuable, rare, precious diamond that has a pink hue to it called the Pink Panther diamond, and somebody has stolen it. And so Inspector Clouseau, who is a part of the French CIA, goes in search of the people who stole this, and he's trying to find this diamond. Well, there's one scene in the original movie that as he's investigating, he's traveling all around Europe in search of these thieves, and in one scene he's in Germany trying to check into an inn for the night. And as he enters the inn, there's an old desk clerk there working the front desk, and yes, they have trouble understanding each other. He asks, "Do you have a ring?" Right? And the guy's like, "What?" He says, "Do you have a ring?" And so he looks up in his English to German dictionary, and he asks in German, and the guy goes, "Oh, a room." And he goes, "Yeah, that's what I've been saying the whole time," right? And so as he's checking in, as he's signing in, he notices that there's a little dog over in the corner. And he goes over to the dog, and he looks at the clerk, and he says, "Does your dog bite?" And the guy says, "No, my dog doesn't bite." And so Inspector Clouseau reaches down to pet the dog, and the dog just latches onto his hand, right? And starts biting him, and he finally breaks free. And he looks at the clerk, and he says, "I thought you said your dog doesn't bite." And the clerk says, "That's not my dog." Right? Henry Blackaby, in his book, Experiencing God, says that when people seek to know and do the will of God, many ask the question, "Lord, what is your will for my life?" When someone asks that question, God, what is your will for my life? Where is the focus? It's on me, right? Lord, what is your will for my life? The focus is on self. Now, maybe it's unconsciously that we do that, but regardless, the focus is on us, our lives, what we are to do. Blackaby then goes on to share that a seminary professor of his, Dr. Gaines Dobbins, used to say, if you ask the wrong question, you're going to get the wrong answer. So the inspector should have asked, "Is that your dog?" Right? Instead of, "Does your dog bite?" Sometimes we assume that every question that we ask is going to be a legitimate question. And so we seek out an answer, and it ends up being wrong, and we can't figure out what is happening, and we end up getting bitter, and we end up getting frustrated. But when we begin to ask questions, we always need to check to see if we have asked the right question before seeking out the answer. God, what is your will for my life? It's not the question we need to be asking. I think the right question we should be asking is, God, what is your will? What is your will? When we ask the question, God, what is your will? Then the focus becomes what? The focus is on God. The focus is on His will. And then we can seek answers to what God's will is. And then we start to adjust our lives to God's will and to His purposes. And so once we understand what God is doing around us, then we can begin to join Him in what He is already doing around us. And we can begin to be a part of His working and His will. His desire, God's desire, is for you to become involved in what He is already doing. You know, we're a doing people, aren't we? Right? We're a doing people. I mean, if you're not doing something, then you're not doing it right. There's an old saying that we have here in the Panhandle, and that is, idle hands are what? The devil's workshop. Right. If you're not doing something, then you're going to end up in trouble, right? We always try to keep our kids busy, right, so they don't get into trouble. And while that's a good thing to do in the sense of building a good work ethic in our kids, it's also troublesome in that it develops in some of us a mentality that to rest ends up being sin because we're not doing something. How many feel guilty that when you're just sitting at the house and you're not doing anything, right? Okay? That's kind of bred into us because we are so taught that work ethic when we're young, and that's a good thing. But it becomes detrimental in the sense that when we lose the concept of how to rest, or we feel guilty for resting, there's always something to be done, right? We got our to-do list, and you know, the next morning our to-do list continues from the day before, and it seems like we never get caught up. There was a track meet one time, and it was a junior high track meet. Have I told y'all this story? Okay. Junior high track meet. Clint, you can identify with this because you've seen a lot of it. But in this junior high track meet, they're doing the mile relay, right? Or the mile, you know, just with the single student doing the mile. And as they're doing the mile, there's one kid in particular that seems to fall behind the rest of the pack. As a matter of fact, he's lapped twice before the race is ended. And at this race, his name is Johnny. Johnny's having struggle to run, right? Keep up. And as he's running, as he passes by the stands, his mother stands up and starts yelling, "Johnny, Johnny, run faster, run faster." You could have seen the look on Johnny's face when he looked at his mother like, "Are you kidding me? Do you think I'm not running as fast as I can?" Right? I'm trying to run as fast as I can, but these other kids are passing me. "Mom, I'm doing the best I can. I'm trying as hard as I can. What do you want me to do?" We live life running as fast as we can, don't we? So much to the point that our lives are spent exhausted, running from one thing to another. Spiritual growth in our lives doesn't happen by running faster, okay? Spiritual growth in our lives doesn't happen by doing more. What keeps many of us from growing is not sin. It's not sin that we struggle with that keeps us from growing in Christ, but rather it's speed that keeps us from growing in Christ. We are so busy doing good things that we can't see what God's best is. Once in a while we hear someone say, "Don't just stand there, do something," right? How many times have we heard that? Don't just sit there, or don't just stand there, do something. We get so busy speeding through life, trying to run faster, trying to do more for God, that we end up running so fast that God can't get our attention long enough to use us as a servant in His kingdom and to accomplish His will through us, because we are moving at warp speed. We end up wearing ourselves out, and we end up accomplishing very little for the kingdom. Most of us, like Johnny, are running as fast as we can. And what ends up happening is we run right past God. And we are so busy that it's not that we are rejecting God, but it's just that we don't have time for Him. And so we come home at the end of the day, and we end up feeling guilty because we haven't spent time with God, because we haven't spent time with our kids, because we haven't spent time with our spouse, because we haven't spent time with God and those that are important in our lives. You know, when we first moved here from Amarillo, I thought, man, we're moving to a rural community. You know, life is just going to be laid back and relaxed, right? You know, because in the city everything moves at such a fast pace. And, you know, get back to the country life, you know, where everything's just kind of laid back and relaxed. Boy, was I wrong, right? It's even worse, I think, in small communities, and that's because in big communities, in big cities, you have people that are just dedicated to one thing, and they put everything that they have into that one thing. You know, if it's your kids, you know, it's either soccer or motocross or BMX or something like that, and you're just dedicated to that one thing. But here in small communities, everybody is involved in everything, right? And so seasons start overlapping each other. And we're running from here to there. And life is not more relaxed. It ends up being more hectic. To the point that we don't struggle with the Bible. We don't struggle with Scripture. What we struggle with is we struggle with the clock. We struggle with time. We don't feel guilty because of sin, but because we don't have enough time for our spouses, for our kids, or for God. We come to the end of the day exhausted and trying to get some rest and end up waking the next day, starting our next day, exhausted from the day before. And it ends up in a vicious cycle, the guys that will ultimately end up in tragedy. You see, speeding through life puts us in jeopardy. Not only does it hurt our relationships, but it hurts and wounds our souls. But we're at a loss as to how to handle this dilemma, and it seems that everyone around us is telling us to run faster, do more, right? Even though we're running as fast as we can, even though we're like Johnny and we're looking at Mom saying, Mom, I'm doing the best I can. And we end up living life at a speed that we can't maintain for very long, and it's going to end up crashing down all around us. We're under the impression that to be a good Christian, that we need to be doing something all the time. We need to be involved in more Bible studies. We need to do more things, right? And we see examples of that all around us. I mean, 10 more meetings. But actual spiritual growth, guys, real growth, happens when we don't do more, but happens when we slow down. As kids say, when you slow your roll, right? Well, what about the phrase, don't just stand there, do something? Don't just sit there idly, do something. I think it's a misconception. I think God is actually crying out to us, shouting to get our attention. Don't just do something. Stand there. Don't just do something. Stand there. Stand there and enter into a love relationship with Jesus. God is calling out to us, stand there and enter into a love relationship with me. Get to know me. Adjust your life to me. Let me love you and reveal myself to you as I work through you. As Blackaby states, in Experiencing God. Now, guys, there's going to be a time when the doing must be done, but it can't happen without the relationship. We just read in John chapter 15, verse 5, where Jesus said, apart from me, you can do what? Nothing, right? Without him, we can do nothing. If we want to commune with Jesus, if we want to fellowship with him, we have to slow down. We can't do it on the run. As a matter of fact, God showed us and gave us an example of that through him himself. When God created the world, Scripture teaches us that he created it in 6 days, and what did he do on the seventh? He rested. Right? Did he need to rest? No. He did that as an example to us, to show us the importance of resting. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy, right? No work. 6 days you shall labor, but on the seventh you should rest. Rest is so important. If we want to stay on the road of faith, we sometimes have to hit the brakes and pull over to the rest area and just stop. It's not about inviting Jesus to speed through our lives with us, but it's about noticing Jesus sitting at the rest stop and pulling over to spend time with him. If there's no satisfaction in your spiritual life, if you feel like that you're just running from one thing to another and you're getting frustrated and you're getting exhausted, maybe it's because you're trying to do it on your own, at your speed, in your way. Listen, guys, God wants you to know him, not just about him. He wants you to know him intimately. He wants you to know him by experience. He wants to establish a love relationship with you. He wants to involve you in his kingdom purposes. But it is he alone that directs us. We don't get to decide that. He's the one that directs us. It's not what we think is a good idea, but it's taking the time to rest in him and to hear from him, and then act. When we allow him to guide us and work through us, then he's going to accomplish his work in us. The problem comes in the fact that we are worn out, and we need to stop and rest. The old saying that idle hands are the devil's workshop, I think can be changed in this day and time to the devil's workshop is a busy life, is being too busy. But we might be doing good things, right? And I think that's what the enemy, I think that's what the devil wants us to do. He wants us to be involved in doing so many good things that we don't have time to sit there and decipher and understand and hear from God what God's best is. And so we get caught up in doing all these good things without doing what God wants us, the best thing for Him that He wants us to do. Right? God's best ends up laying by the wayside. There was a mother, and some of you over 50 can get this, all right? I know I kind of went through this with my own mother. When you get these things, right, smartphones, sometimes there's kind of a little bit of a barrier and a block, right, of understanding. And so this mom was trying to get hip and to start texting her kids. And so she texts her daughter, and she says, "Honey, what does IDK, IDC, and TTYL mean?" The doctor replied, "I don't know, I don't care, and I'll talk to you later." Mother replies, "Fine, then I'll just ask your brother." Right? IDK, IDC, and TTYL stands for I don't know, I don't care, and I'll talk to you later. Right? We get so busy and overwhelmed that we get to the point of burnout, and we end up in a state of apathy. We get so overwhelmed that we come to a place where we say, "I don't know and I don't care, so I'll talk to you later." Right? Burnout seems to be a problem among Christ followers today. Burnout is slang for an inner tiredness. I love how Yaconelli defines that as an inner tiredness, a fatigue of the soul, which leads to apathy. In Matthew chapter 11, verses 28 through 30 that we read at the beginning as our call to worship this morning, Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart. Then you will find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light." Jesus came to forgive us our sins, including the sin of busyness. Jesus had something to say to those who have worried themselves by busyness, and that is, "Come to me. Come to me if you're weary, if you're burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you." A yoke is an instrument built for two oxen, and it was meant for them to work together. And the idea was to take an older, experienced oxen and pair it with a younger, inexperienced one. And by working together, the younger one would learn. Jesus' invitation is for us to get into His yoke with Him, to get involved in His work. And when you work where He is actually working, and He accomplishes His work with and through you, it ends up being in a way that the yoke is easy and the burden is light. And you actually enjoy doing what God has instructed you to do. So many times people approach knowing and doing God's will in a way in which they ask, "Lord, what do you want me to do? When do you want me to do it? How should I do it? Where do you want me to do your will? And what is the outcome going to be?" Right? We come to God and we say, "All right, God, I'm willing to do your will, but I need to know when it's going to happen, where it's going to happen, what's going to happen, and how it's going to happen." Right? To which Jesus replies, "You don't need to know any of that. All you need to know is you need to follow me one step, one day at a time." One day at a time. Well, that doesn't work for me. So we get frustrated when we don't like the answer. Wait. Lord, I need an answer. Lord, give me patience and give it to me now. Right? We don't like it when it says the time is not right. I don't know right now. We get frustrated when we are told to wait upon the Lord, because what are we supposed to do while we're waiting? Right? Because we got to be doing something. We want to know where, when, how, why. In John 14:6, Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father except through me." Let's look at just the first part of that. Jesus says, I am the way. Jesus did not say, I will show you the way. Jesus did not say, I will give you a map. Jesus did not say, I will tell you what direction to go. No, he said, I am the way. He is the way. Walk in him. We know we are ready for God to show us and to work in us when we get to the point to where we get frustrated and we get tired and we get exhausted and we get worn out. And guys, God will let you get to that point when there is a heaviness in your soul because of exhaustion. He will let you get to that point. I hope that we wake up before that. Notice I said we, right? Wake up before we get to that. But he'll let us get to the point of being weighed down because God is present in the heaviness. Sometimes God has to get us to that place of exhaustion before we're ready to listen. When our souls are tired and when we're worn out and spent with nothing left, then the only option becomes hearing from God. He'll let us get to exhaustion if that's what it takes for us to hear from him and to hear him say, come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. We struggle with the concept of rest, don't we? We don't know how to rest. Well, we do, but we just don't want to do it, right? We refuse to do it. You see, rest is a decision. Rest is choosing to do nothing when there is much to do. Slowing down when we feel the pressure to go faster. Rest is stopping instead of starting. It's the importance of a quiet time. I was talking with a friend of mine that just got back from vacation, a pastor friend of mine. And he was telling me about, we were talking yesterday about how his vacation went. And he said, Alan, every vacation that we take, and they always go back to the Black Hills of South Dakota every year to take their vacation. He said, every year I use that vacation time to just kind of do a check on my life. And he said, the check involves this. Am I being faithful in my quiet time? Am I being faithful in hearing from the Lord? And the second is this, am I being faithful in trying to stay fit and eat right and exercise? And the third is, am I staying faithful in my intellect? In trying to read more and trying to learn more. And as Scott was telling me this, it dawned on me, what are those three things involved? Body, mind, and soul, right? When those three things are going good, life is sweet, right? Life is good. We're hearing from the Lord in our quiet time. We're feeling good, and we're respecting the temple that he has given us, right? And we're learning more and more about him and growing deeper in our relationship. But if one of those things is out of whack, then it messes up the other two, right? And so we have to concentrate on, am I doing those things? And the first thing, I think, is the importance of a quiet time. And in the importance of a quiet time, of daily making ourselves stop and spend time with the Lord. Brother Alan, I'm too busy. Then get up earlier, right? If you don't have enough time in your day, then you're too busy. Something needs to go, and it's not your daily time with the Lord. Resting is humility, because we have to admit that God can get accomplished his will with or without us, right? If we don't take the time to rest and spend time with the Lord, then God is still going to get his will done. The question is, are you going to be a part of that or not? If you and I were to do everything that Jesus tells us to do one day at a time, then we would always be right in the center of God's will. And that's the best place to be. And so the question is, can we trust God to guide us that way? You might think, well, I want to wait until I have all the information and then I'll move. I want to understand exactly what's going to happen and then I'll go forth and do what God wants me to do. But guys, that's not the pattern that we see in Jesus' life. nor is that the pattern in all of Scripture. When God called Abraham to go, he said, go. He didn't say, Abraham, here's what you're going to do. Here's the itinerary for your trip. No, he said, Abraham, go. Go where, Lord? I'll show you. And Abraham, by faith, went. He didn't know where he was going. He didn't know when he was going to end up there. He didn't know what was going on. All he knew was God said, go. And he obeyed. God would be more interested in us responding to him by saying, yes, I want to follow you, Jesus, one day at a time. I want to be right in the center of your will for my life. When we get to that place where we trust Jesus to guide us one step at a time, we experience a new freedom, right? We experience a new joy, a new satisfaction. And if we don't trust Jesus to guide us in this way, then what happens is we don't know which way to go. We don't know what direction to step out in. And so we end up freezing up. We worry that we might take the wrong turn. We freeze up and we can't make a decision. But that's not what God intends. God intends for us to live our lives in obedience to him, one step, one day at a time. Listen, guys, God is more interested in a loving relationship with you than he is in what you can do for him. God is more interested in a love relationship with you than what you can do for him. Think about that for a minute. His desire is for you to love him, to fellowship with him. As he fills you with his presence, then he begins to guide you to do what he wants you to do. But even if you do those things, he'll be the one at work through you. It's not about us. It's about him. It's about realizing that he is all we need. That Christ in you is your way. That he is your map. And when you follow his leadership one day at a time, you'll always be right in the middle of God's will for your life because you'll be in God's will. And guys, we need to realize that God is absolutely trustworthy. You can take that to the bank. He's never going to mislead you. He's never going to lead you astray. He's never going to leave you nor forsake you. He is absolutely trustworthy. You can trust him to guide you, to provide for you. Remember, it is God who works in both, to will in you, to both to will and to do for his good pleasure. Philippians 2:13. And so the challenge for us today is to consider to do these things. First of all, would you agree with God that you will follow him one day at a time? Will you say to the Lord this morning, Lord, I've been trying to speed through life and I'm ended up exhausted. And I just need to rest in you. And so God, today, I want to start following you one step at a time. I don't have to see the big picture. All I need to know is that you love me and that you'll guide me. It might mean giving up your schedule. It might mean adjusting your life. Would you agree to follow him even when he doesn't spell out the details? Right. Just to rest in him. Would you surrender and say to him this morning, Lord, I'll do anything that your kingdom requires of me. Wherever you want me to be, I'll go. Whatever the circumstance, I'll follow. If you want to meet a need in somebody else's life through my life, I'm your servant. And I'll do whatever is required. Would you agree this morning that you'll let him be your way?